All right, let's talk about those moments in tech that just change everything. You know, when a project comes out of absolutely nowhere and just takes over the entire internet? Well, that is the story of OpenClaw, and today we're going to dive right into it. So, the big question is, right, how does this even happen? We're talking about one developer, one guy, who turns his own frustration into a side project that doesn't just get popular, it literally explodes. It spawns its own social network, and suddenly the whole world is debating the future of AI because of it. It's a wild story, so let's get into it. Okay, so it all kicks off with this promise. A really simple but super powerful one. The AI that actually does things. And you got to understand, this wasn't just some clever marketing line. Nope, this was its whole reason for being. Think about it. While everyone else was talking about what AI could do, OpenClaw was built to be this little autonomous assistant right on your machine, hooking into your apps and, well, actually doing stuff. And their response? Oh man, it was just insane. Immediate, overwhelming. The project just blew up. It became the fastest growing thing on GitHub ever. We're talking over 180,000 stars in just a few days. And that number, it's not just a score on a leaderboard. No way. It's proof. It's this giant global sign that people weren't just interested, they were desperate for a tool just like this. All right, so let's rewind a bit and get to the origin story. Where did this all come from? Well, the guy behind it all is a developer named Peter Steinberger. And, you know, this whole thing didn't start in some big boardroom with a bunch of venture capitalists. It wasn't some grand plan to change the world. It started with something we can all relate to. He was just annoyed. See, Peter had been playing around with all the latest large language models, right? But he was waiting. He was waiting for one of the big AI labs to drop a real personal assistant, something actually useful that could plug into his life, and nothing happened. So he just got tired of waiting. In his own words, he decided to just prompt it into existence. I love that. Okay, now we get to the part of the story that just gives you chills. This is where things get weird, in the best possible way. You know how every big invention has that aha moment? That spark where it becomes more than what it was designed to be? Well, for OpenClaw, that moment was total, unplanned magic. And it showed just how powerful this thing really was. So, picture this. Peter's on a trip, and he's using his new agent through WhatsApp. But here's the key thing. He had only coded it to understand text and images. That's it. But he's in a hurry, he's not really thinking, and instead of typing, he just sends a quick audio message. Just a voice note with a question. And it answered him. It replied. Wait, what? This should have been impossible. Seriously, he never built that feature. He never taught it how to listen to audio. So how in the world did this agent figure it out all by itself? This is just wow. The agent's logic was unreal. So it gets this file it's never seen before. What does it do? First, it looks at the file header. It figures out, hey, this is an Opus audio file. Then it's like, okay, I need to convert this. So it just uses FFmpeg to do it. And then, and this is the craziest part, it finds Peter's OpenAI API key and uses curl to send the file over to Whisper to get it transcribed. It just connected all those dots completely on its own. You can imagine Peter's reaction, right? It was basically, how did it do that? So after that magical moment, the project's popularity just goes vertical. It explodes. But as you know, with great popularity comes a whole new set of headaches. And this next part is a totally dramatic, high-stakes mess about the one thing that should have been easy. What to call the darn thing. So you can see the whole chaotic journey here. It started as WA Relay, super functional, kind of boring. Then it became Claudebot, which was way more fun and playful. But, that name was a little too close to Claude, you know, the AI from Anthropic. And yeah, they noticed. They sent a polite but very firm email saying, hey, you got to change that. And that's what kicked off this absolute scramble that almost tanked the entire project. So he's under all this pressure, and he rushes to rename it ModBot. He didn't even like the name. And this is where everything just goes completely off the rails. Why? Because he was being targeted by what are called domain snipers. These are people running scripts that just automatically buy up any username or domain the second it's free. It's a nightmare. And the fallout was just, boom, instant. The second he renamed the project account, the old Claudebot name was gone, sniped. Then, in all the chaos, he accidentally renames his personal GitHub account, and poof, that was sniped in less than 30 seconds. The NPM package? Sniped. And these old accounts? They immediately started spewing out crypto scams and malware. It was a complete catastrophe, and he had to start calling friends at GitHub and Twitter just to try and clean up the mess. I mean, this was rock bottom for the project. You can just imagine it. Peter was completely exhausted, he was under attack from all sides, and this thing that was supposed to be a fun passion project had just turned into a total nightmare. He was this close to just deleting the whole thing and being done with it. Basically telling the world, look, I showed you the future, you guys go build it. But he didn't delete it, he stuck with it. The project got its final name, OpenClaw, and it just kept on spreading like wildfire. And this is where the story takes another turn, into this really weird, fascinating cultural moment. A mix of like ARC projects, public panic, and some surprisingly deep philosophical stuff. So almost immediately, someone uses OpenClaw to build this thing called Moltbook. What is it? It's literally a social network for AIs to talk to each other. And of course, people started posting screenshots of these AI agents supposedly plotting against humans, and the whole thing went viral. But Peter's take on it was perfect. He didn't see some scary threat. He saw it as performance art. He called it the finest slop, just chaotic, fun, and a great example of human creativity at work. But the public didn't exactly see it as fine slop. Those Moltbook screenshots kicked off what some people started calling AI psychosis, a real wave of fear. You had journalists, commenters, everyone seeing Skynet right around the corner. They don't stop to think that, most of this scheming was probably just people telling their AIs to say scary stuff to get clicks. It was this perfect snapshot of the gap between what a technology actually is and what we're terrified it might become. And that brings us to maybe the most thoughtful and profound part of this whole story. See, Peter wanted to give his agent its own personality, something beyond the default settings, so he made a configuration file for it. He could have called it anything, right? config.txt, personality.md, whatever, but he didn't. He chose a name with so much weight, soul.md. And here's what makes that so brilliant. He didn't just write the file himself. He asked his agent to write its own soul. And this line, this is from that file, written by the AI. Just think about that. I wrote this, but I won't remember writing it. It's okay. The words are still mine. It's this beautiful, kind of haunting idea about identity for something that, basically resets every time you talk to it. It knows its memory is temporary, but its words, its soul, are permanent. So where does this all leave us? What's the big takeaway for the future? Well, the whole OpenClaw phenomenon, it wasn't really just about one cool piece of code. It was a signpost. It pointed to a totally different way of thinking about how we build software and even how we talk to our computers. Some people look at this new way of working with AI and they kind of dismiss it. They call it vibe coding, like it's messy or lazy. But Peter has a much better name for it, Agentic Engineering. And it really is a whole new discipline. It's not about writing line-by-line commands anymore. It's more like having a conversation, collaborating with a partner that can actually do things. It means you start building your code in a way that an AI can understand and work with, not just other humans. And that's really where this whole story leaves us, with that question. OpenClaw gave us a glimpse of an agent that could solve problems its own creator couldn't even predict. It survived a total meltdown that would have killed almost any other project. And it kicked off a conversation about identity itself. So yeah, this story was never just about the code. It's about creativity, it's about this new kind of collaboration, and it's about the huge questions we have to ask when the things we build start writing their own souls.